Hey, what's going on, guys? Keynes here. So recently I asked you what would you like to learn here on Keynes channel next, and one of the subscribers pointed out that it would be nice to learn about big data in general and PySpark framework in particular. So PySpark is just an interface to Apache Spark framework, and in this video we're going to be installing it on Linux and make sure that it actually works. It's quite complicated process, and it's not really that trivial, and it really needs a bit of understanding how things work on Linux. And you might be wondering why not to do the same for Windows, for instance. Well, the reason is very simple, since it's intended to be working with the clusters. So most likely you would be using something like AWS or Azure or similar cloud services, and most of them kind of do use the Linux instances to work with. So the steps in order to install PySpark remotely on some cloud service are exactly the same as if you've been doing this locally. But here is an important point. So many guys are actually requesting to make some tutorials on how to deal with AWS, with Azure, and things like that. But you're just trying to understand a simple thing. So in order to show that, like in the real time, real life, you need to have accounts for those, and you need to provide lots of credentials, like including your credit card number, like in case of AWS, for instance. And that's a real pain to set up, and it's really not worth of doing that, because the only difference of how you would be working with this remote cloud services and how you would be doing this exactly the same thing locally is that with the remote services, you're logging into your remote instance, remote Linux instance, using the SSH, and you just set up your credentials there, and most likely you would just get those from your client. So it's a very standard thing to consider, and the rest of things would be exactly the same, like as if you have been working with your local Linux machine. So for those who are looking for this cloud development sort of a thing, I highly recommend to get used to Linux, install it, and try first try to install everything on your Linux locally to get used to it, because you may be running into some issues, and on the remote server it might not be that trivial to to manage it that easily, because you might have the limited access and so on. But on your local machine you can do whatever, and at the very least you can get used to the environment, and that's generally a good idea for practicing. So those looking for learning the PySpark and working with it, I highly recommend to do this under Linux. So yeah, for those who already have PySpark installed on Windows, for instance, you can just skip this video, and there would be upcoming tutorials on PySpark in general. And again, like, PySpark is just a Python wrapper for Python interface for Apache Spark. That's important. So in this video, we're going to be installing Apache Spark on Linux. So without further ado, let's actually start. Okay, so here I found an absolutely tremendous guide on how this actually can be done. Again, like, this is applicable not only for local. So I'm by saying Linux, I mean like Debian-based repository like Ubuntu or Linux Mint, like in my case. But since the apt-get is working for you, that's just fine. So yeah, this apt or apt-get doesn't matter. Okay, so this kind of article is a little bit outdated, so I needed to slightly change it. And by the time you would be watching this video, it also might be already outdated, because all these modern technologies, all this trending stuff is developing so fast that you're just getting used to how to settle down things, and then they change everything, and they give you this deprecation warnings and things like that. And if you're taking that too close to your heart, you would just go insane and drop this forever and end up being pissed off. So you just don't really need to care much about this. The major thing is to focus on the main goal of what you're trying to do, because otherwise you would be getting distracted. You would get distracted by tons of things that just kills you literally. So don't take it close to heart, and don't serve the frameworks. Let the frameworks serve you, serve your purposes basically. Okay, so with this things in mind, here is the setup I have. So here I've created a file called installspark.txt. So first it has the link to the website that I've just shown you. And then we'll walk through the installation process step by step. So, well, obviously, since it's Linux, you could have just make a shell file to install all the things automatically. But if you just take that file, then most likely won't be working for you, because you might not have something being installed there, and it just starts giving you tons of errors, and you will get overwhelmed and not understanding what's going on, how to proceed, asking tons of questions, and all that stuff won't make any sense. So instead, let's actually go for sort of a step-by-step manual installation, so to divide and conquer the process. And in that case, if you would be getting some errors, you will know for sure where exactly this error has occurred, and it would be easier to track the issues. All right, so the very first thing to consider, so Apache Spark framework does rely on a certain dependencies. So it needs the Java development kit, it needs the Scala programming language because it's written in Scala, and also, as they suggest, they need the Git, which is the version control system. Well, I have Git installed already. Actually, I have all of this installed. But anyway, so all you need to do, you just copy the first command and paste into the terminal. So I'm currently in my home directory here, right, in my user directory, sorry, and running this as the super user, and you see, like, it tells me that it's already being installed because I have installed this before recording this video. But otherwise, you just walk through the long installation process, and you just need to say yes in order to, like, you agree to install Java and things like that. And then here you can verify the dependencies, so the versions for all the things that you have set up here. And this is my setup. Now, in regards to Java, so later on it would be falling into the issue of giving tons of I don't want to say meaningless warnings, but those I've spent around 4 hours today to figure out what are those warnings are all about, and generally, like, the vast majority of Stack Overflow questions is telling us that just ignore that. And one of the options was to install Java 8 instead of Java 11, and indeed it does reduce some of the warnings, but not all. And like, what I hate the most about this modern trended frameworks, that before actually starting using it, you spend in a freaking 2 days, 3 days, or even a week to just settle all those damned warnings, because that's getting really extremely annoying. Because instead of being focused on to solve your task, basically you're getting distracted by tons of things. So I'm sorry for this personal for this personal opinion, but that's something that makes me pissed off, really. And I just don't want you guys to fall into this exact same pitfall I've been to today, basically. This results in being pissed off completely. So yeah, you could have installed Java 8 instead of Java 11, and if you will start googling about all of those warnings appearing in the PySpark shell later on, you'll see the tons of Stack Overflow questions, like how to resolve that. And in that case, there would be suggestions to install Java 8 instead of Java 11. And here I have a couple of commands to do that, basically. So I can probably demonstrate how that works. Yeah, just to give you an idea, to make it more complete video. But anyway, I suggest to ignore this completely, because I already made the research, and I do realize that all those warnings are just crap, so you don't really need to care about them much. Okay, so where did we stop? Okay, so the next step is to download the Spark itself. So here I have a direct link, but the place where you can obtain this is here, basically. So I will give you this link in the description below the video as well. So here is the specific distribution, let's say, that we need. Copy, and let me just so since I'm in my home directory, in my user directory, here it is. So I will now just delete this, and so this would download. This would start the downloading process. So this takes quite a bit of time, but yeah. So this is what you will see later on, and it should be actually here it is already. So just the file appears. I just deleted it, but by downloading it just appears again, and then we will unpack it, and the actual installation is moving this sort of package to this location, opt Spark. So this is the Linux specific location there. So by the time I'm installing, I'll probably go there and delete it from there, just to showcase the steps again. So if I go to file system, and here is my opt folder, and here is the Spark. So here is the what we've downloaded and extracted the files from our cave. So I can just delete it here. Can I delete this, please? Okay, so I need to be the super user to delete this. Okay, so far so good. So it's no longer there. So we'll now wait until the download completes. Yeah, probably probably I shouldn't be doing that, but anyway. All right. Okay, so we're almost done. Just pause the recording by the time it's gonna download. And so you might be wondering, why am I doing this in the console, in the terminal emulator? The reason for that is very simple. So obviously you could have downloaded just using your browser, and then when it comes to kind of installing this by just moving to the certain location, you could do this in the GUI as well. If you're running this locally, it's not a big deal. But if you're going to be running this on the remote AWS server, for instance, in that case, you just won't have GUI there, because that's just the SSH based console interaction. So you just the only interface you would be having there is this terminal based one. So just to bear that in mind, it's important to understand the reason why we're doing everything in console. So yeah, well, actually, if I have an option like to choose doing this in the GUI or in console, I usually choose you doing things in the GUI. It just feels a little bit faster, maybe just a matter of taste. Doesn't matter really here. But like if you're doing these steps, so let's say you have the remote AWS instance and you're watching this video and trying to follow the tutorial. In that case, this is kind of the only way how you can make things done. Okay, so we got our file being downloaded. So just to show you that, basically, and here we go. So here it is. Here is our KIV, right? It's already been instructed. No, it's not. Okay, so the next thing to consider, which is important, is to we want to extract the files. So just copy this one, right? And so here we just do extract all the files. And by the way, it's quite important that it does also contain this. It already contains the PySpark inside, which is important. So we didn't only install the Apache Spark but the PySpark as well. So it actually has the Scala interface, the Python interface, and the Java interface, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it relies on Java quite a lot. Okay, so now we have this. We should have. Yeah, this is it. This is the folder. And now we need to move this folder to our opt directory. So let's go for that. Right, and now if we go back to the opt, then here we have this Spark without the version, anything, just Spark itself, and we have all the files. So from now on, we are actually ready to start working. Okay, so I just realized that I forgot to add one of the most essential pieces into this install spark.txt. So the next thing to consider, we need to configure the environmental variables. So the way how this entire Spark framework works, it relies on a whole lot of user scripts that you can just run directly in the console as the commands. But if you don't want to specify the entire path every time you want to run a single script, it's a good idea to actually make it once and forever, and not being like much bother with this later on. So here Nano stands for built-in text editor that is available with the most of the Linux distros. So, and the profile is the configuration file. So if I just if I say nano profile, then here we go. And here after, so here this is what you most likely see in this profile, like by default, right? And then you need to add this line. So it just so here is the list of the environmental variables to export. So Spark home, so where to look for the path is built from there, and also which Python to use for PySpark. So this is important. So these three lines are essential. So you just grab them and paste into your editor here. So just to give you an idea how this can be done. So for instance, if I don't have this yet, so if I don't have this, then I just say copy, and then to paste into Linux console, Control-Shift-W, and here we go, and then Control-O to write, and to profile, row 32 lines. So far so good. Control-X to exit, and then to activate this, we need to use this command, source and profile. Copy, source and profile, and starting from this point, we can actually run the server. So Spark has the master server and the slave workers. So it's really easier to demonstrate rather than to explain. I don't want to dive into all of this theory now. So this is just the standard setup things. Okay, so in order to start the master server, which is absolutely essential to generally to work with Spark, you need to invoke the script that is called startmaster.sh, and because we've just exported this environmental variables, it now is available as like globally, and indeed it does start. So far so good. Now it has a web UI, which is really fantastic, and just to make sure that it kind of runs the server there, so we can go to the web UI, and it's really useful for debugging to see like what's going on there. So yeah, we don't need this one anymore, so let's put it here. So here, this is the interface of the Spark master. And now another important thing, so when it comes to creating the worker process, now this path, we're going to rely on it later on, and in your case it would be different because you have a different kind of user computer name, or it's not sure how exactly to call this. So sometimes you might be using the local address like 127.0.0.1, but it just it has an issues with connecting the worker. It can't connect just that easily. So it's really better to use the default settings they provided here. So then here you would have your own line. So literally just to give you an idea that this part is going to be changed. The rest is going to be exactly the same. So this, where this part comes from, so this part comes from here, right? So here, so in your console, you would have your own custom name here. All right, so and that's important because that's something that is going to be used later on. So now, if we want to start, it's called slave server or worker process. Earlier it was called like start slave .sh, but then that was deprecated, and I hate those deprecations so much. I just can't express enough that, guys. I'm sorry, but okay. And now they use start worker.ch. And what is already kind of useful out of the box, so we can set up the number of cores to use and the number and the amount of random access memory to be involved with the process. So I'm using 1 core and 512 megabytes of memory. That's fairly enough for testing, getting introduced to the framework, and trying running some basic tests. So if you're running it within the cluster, you can specify the settings accordingly. But for now, it's literally enough to have the worker shell being like this. Okay, so the next thing, so you just bear in mind that I'm using this the path specific to my particular system, and now I'm running the worker process here, and it runs. And just to make sure that it actually runs perfectly well, we just need to update the server. And okay, it's not appearing. Yeah, and now you see like this worker has been added. So it's using my local IP address. So here is the port it's using. So it's alive. It uses only 1 core and 512 megabytes of memory, just like I asked it to. So yeah, I hope this makes sense. And you can make more workers. Just if you have enough cores, if you have enough memory, you can make as many workers as your resources allow you to do. And that's the major thing why they love this PySpark, so the Spark and PySpark in particular so much, because you can just create as many workers as your resources kind of allows you to have. And having this, the reason to have this sort of a networking, so you can just connect the workers so workers might be running on different instances, and they still be connected to this main server. So that's the idea. So that's the problem with the big data is that you just may run out of memory and not having enough processing power if you're doing this on your local machine. So the solution they've created is pretty trivial. So they say like, okay, so let's just coordinate all the slave processes, all the workers, via network with the general master server, and that's the way to work. And in that case, you can easily manage the resources being used for your workers by just allocating them on the target instances. So that's just the general theory to bear in mind in order to understand like why the heck to create this this sort of a thing in general. So it wasn't that trivial for me when I just started looking at this, but yeah, then it just gets really clear. So well, yeah, it definitely makes sense. Okay, so we are almost there, and now okay, what I have here, yeah, so we're not going to be touching this part at the moment because it only so it's the matter of limiting the warnings. We'll now have tons of warnings, but those are not the warnings that we're going to be limiting using this command. But generally what this command does, it actually allows you to create a custom login, the custom file that sets up the level of the login, so whether it's the info, the wording, only the errors, and so on. So how many information being logged to the console. So this is generally a useful command as well. So yeah, probably just demonstrate that. It doesn't help to get rid of the initial warnings that have been mentioned at the beginning, but yeah, it would be useful later on. So that would be covered in separate. So for now, I just want to basically give you an idea, because again, something they don't really explain much, but it's not, doesn't seem to be that self-explanatory. So here, if we go to the Spark directory, we have this conf, and on Stack Overflow they say like the conf directory, and where the freaking conf directory is located. No one says that. Only one place I found that, yeah, it's actually located in the Spark directory. Okay, so here is the log for J is log4j is a logger, let's say, and here is the template for the configuration. So what we do by this line, oh my god, where is this line? So what we do by this line, we just create instance of the actual configuration for logger, right? What? You must be. Oh, that's, yeah, I need to, okay, so yeah, so to run this command I need to open the terminal here. I could have just adjusted the path, but I'm too lazy for that, sorry. So this should be working here. You must be kidding. What? Okay, I'm sorry. I need to be in Spark directory. Oh my god, where is that? Yeah, in Spark directory. So yeah, not just here. Okay, now it should work. So you can just manually copy it and paste and just rename, but again, on the remote server you won't be able to do so. So yeah, and these files are the same. So here you have this settings for the level of debugging messages, so warning, or only errors, or only info. So this is going to be covered later on, I hope, if I don't get sick and tired of this. Okay, yeah. So yeah, what we got, what do we have eventually? Yeah, this might be skipped for now. Yeah, and now so I'll demonstrate two ways of how to run the Spark shell, basically. So it has two interfaces: the Scala interface. So here, Scala shell. So here just Spark shell, like this, and also it has the Python version of it. So let's start with the Scala one. We're not going to be using that, but just to give you an idea, it exists. It's the part of the original tutorial I've been following. So yeah. So here we go into the Spark shell. We will now give tons of warnings. So yeah, if you want, you can just Google for all those and spend your life for nothing by trying to read like what this crap is all about. But probably most likely you will end up like me, realizing that you don't really need to care much about it. So you just ignore these warnings, and it thinks for ages, and after it should actually run into the console, and from there on you can start working. And ta-da, ta-da. Okay, here we go, finally. So here is the Spark console. So this is Scala, select Scala programming language interface. So we don't need this to escape colon and Q. I guess similar as in the Vim code as right. And now we also have the PySpark being installed. So we can go to the PySpark. It uses Python 3 in my case, and it would give you another damned error like you can't use Python 3.6. It would be deprecated soon. Just forget that. The warnings are still the same, and yeah, these warnings are coming from the Java. So if we try to, so yeah, here it is. Now we can actually write Python code to work with PySpark. So I hope it's clear. Now just one last thing before I leave is this one. So disable warnings by installing Java 8 instead of Java 11. So this is optional, might not be needed. So this is what I've done. So we try to install Java. Oh, sorry, copy, paste, and obviously I have that installed already. Yeah, and if you want to switch between Java versions available on your system, you just do this. And here we have Java 8, so 2. I hit 2 here, and now I have Java 8 instead of Java 11 being like the main Java to use. And if I go back to Spark shell, so Python version still gives tons of errors, so it's hard to see that there are less warnings, not errors but warnings, less warnings. But in Spark shell it's slightly bit less warnings than before. So it only gives this initial one because I'm running this locally. Yeah, so it should be okay, I hope, on the remote instance. Yeah, because it just overrides the IP that is used for worker, I believe. Not sure. Yeah, and probably it already should know. Well, it still gives some warnings. Yeah, but in general it's a little bit less warnings. So yeah, you can spend another weekend to try to get rid of those, but you just better just ignore them. That's pretty much all about it. And yeah, so they do not affect anything. All right, so let's go back from here, and just want to drop back to my original Java 11, right? Yeah, so still more warnings, but yeah, but from now on, finally we can start working with this framework. This is it from my side, guys. Hopefully new tutorials on PySpark are coming. See you in next videos. Thanks for watching. Until the next time, and take care.